Everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today's topic is the cavernous venous sinus. We are doing the head and neck classes. We have already covered the scalp, face, parotid gland, dural folds. So now we will continue with the dural venous sinus. Those who are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe now so that you will receive the continuation of the gross anatomy lectures, histology, embryology, and also so many playlists in our channel. So those who have not subscribed, please subscribe now so that you will receive the everyday notifications. We will continue with the cavernous venous sinus. You see this picture, which is the cranial cavity after the brain removal. If you see the cranial cavity after the brain removal, you will see the cranial nerves from front to behind like this. So you are seeing in this first cranial nerve, olfactory nerve, optic nerve related to the anterior cranial fossa, oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, and three divisions of the trigeminal nerve, ophthalmic, maxillary, and mandibular from the trigeminal ganglion, then abducens nerve related to the middle cranial fossa, facial nerve, vestibulocochlear nerve, glossopharyngeal nerve, vagus nerve, and accessory nerve and hypoglossal nerve in the posterior cranial fossa. So you should know the cranial nerves in relation to the anterior, middle and posterior cranial fossa and through which foramen they exit the cranial cavity. If you know, then it will be easy for this. First we will start with this cavernous venous sinus situation. Situation of the cavernous sinus. They are the paired venous sinuses. So we have learnt in the last class some venous sinuses are not paired and some are paired. These are the paired venous sinuses situated on either side of the body of the sphenoid bone. So if this is the body of the sphenoid bone, on either side of the body of the sphenoid bone like this. So this is one cavernous venous sinus and this is the other cavernous venous sinus. Each sinus extends from the superior orbital fissure in front to the apex of the petrous temporal bone behind. So this is the situation of the superior orbital fissure from front to the apex of the petrous temporal bone behind. So that is the extent of the cavernous venous sinus. Then why it is called as cavernous? Why it is named so? The interior of the sinus when collapsed in the dissected cadavers in the beginning of the dissections, they found to be traversed by the interlacement of the reticular fibers, making the sinus spongy in appearance, hence named as cavernous. It is not having really reticular fibers. Its appearance in the dissected cadavers have caused this name cavernous sinus. Measurements: length is 2 cm and breadth is 1 cm. Formation: so any sinus, how it is formed? By its splitting between the endosteal and meningeal layers of the dura mater. Same way here also, this sinus is filled with an venous blood and it is covered with an endothelial lining. So what are the roof and floor? Roof and floor or roof is formed by the meningeal layer, floor is formed by the endosteal layer. Roof and lateral wall formed by the meningeal layer, floor and medial wall by the endosteal layer. So that is about the formation, roof and lateral wall, floor and medial wall. Structures passing through the cavernous sinus. Some structures pass through the cavernous sinus. So in this picture, if you see, here it is given in the red color. In relation to the floor, it is the internal carotid artery. So like this, internal carotid artery enters through the apex of the petrous temporal bone. Here, this is the apex, there is the foramen lacerum here. So it is entering here. Passes along the floor of the sinus, lodging in the carotid sulcus. So where it lodges is this place will be called as the carotid sulcus on the of the body of the sphenoid bone. Then abducens nerve. So can you see the abducens nerve here? Yes, this is the abducens nerve. So this, if you draw this here in this side, internal carotid artery. So this internal carotid artery and the abducens nerve runs in the floor of the cavernous sinus. So this abducens nerve enters below the petrosphenoid ligament. So this is the petrous temporal bone and this is the sphenoid bone. So between this petrosphenoid ligament, it enters below the petrosphenoid ligament and it accompanies infralateral to the internal carotid artery. The nerve leaves through the superior orbital fissure within the common tendinous ring. So if you see many nerves in this cavernous sinus will leave through the superior orbital fissure only. So because they have to enter the superior orbital fissure and supply the extraocular muscles of the eyeball. So after its exit from this midbrain pons, so these cranial nerves have to enter the superior orbital fissure. Even this oculomotor and trochlear nerve from the midbrain, this abducens nerve from the pons, they have, so if this is the situation of the brain stem, so from this all these cranial nerves are leaving, they have to reach this superior orbital fissure. They see the dural cavernous venous sinus in the middle, so they pass through the cavernous sinus. That's how they are related to the cavernous sinus. So structures in the floor of the cavernous sinus we have seen. So after formation, structures passing through the sinus we have seen. Internal carotid artery and abducens nerve. Now structures in the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus. So this is the cavernous sinus we have drawn. This is the cavernous sinus. Structures in the lateral wall, one below the other. So this is the first structure. Oculomotor nerve. It enters by piercing the roof of the sinus, leaves the sinus through the tendinous ring by dividing into two rami. Then the oculomotor, after oculomotor, then the trochlear nerve. Is then the trochlear nerve. So this is the trochlear nerve. It is, so this trochlear nerve also enters similar to the oculomotor nerve, leaves the sinus through the superior orbital fissure but outside the tendinous ring. So this is oculomotor, then this is the trochlear nerve. So they are one below the other in the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus. So now we have to know the superior orbital fissure. How it leaves through the sinus we are telling. So we will draw the superior orbital fissure and this is the common tendinous ring. So here is the two divisions of the oculomotor nerve through the middle compartment. Then trochlear nerve leaves through the lateral compartment. So these two are the oculomotor nerve and this is the trochlear nerve. Now the next structure is the ophthalmic nerve. So this is the ophthalmic nerve. Ophthalmic nerve, which is the division of the trigeminal nerve. It enters by piercing the cavum trigeminale, leaves through the superior orbital fissure by dividing into lacrimal, frontal and nasociliary. So these are the three branches of the ophthalmic nerve. In this lacrimal and frontal, that is lacrimal, frontal, through the lateral compartment, nasociliary between the two divisions of the oculomotor nerve. So between these two divisions of the oculomotor nerve, that is the nasociliary. So in the lateral compartment, we have to remember as LFT, lacrimal, frontal and trochlear. In the middle compartment, two divisions of the oculomotor nerve and nasociliary nerve. And just below these two divisions, that will be the abducens nerve. So these are the main nerves in the superior orbital fissure. So that you should know how these nerves leave through the superior orbital fissure. Next nerve in the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus is this maxillary nerve. Its entry is similar to the ophthalmic nerve, but it leaves through the foramen rotundum here. So it does not enter the superior orbital fissure. So we have covered the structures in the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus: oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, ophthalmic nerve, and maxillary nerve, one below the other. So what are the relations of the cavernous sinus? External relations. So this is the situation of the cavernous sinus, which we have drawn blue color. So if you see medially, what is that relation is? Here will be the situation of the pituitary gland and the sphenoidal ear sinus. So medially and below, pituitary gland and sphenoidal ear sinus. Laterally, you can see in this. So this is the cavernous sinus. Laterally is the cavum trigeminal, containing the trigeminal ganglion. If you think that brain is also situated, so with that will be the uncus of the temporal lobe. Above is a part of optic chiasma. So these two are the optic nerves. So they will form the optic chiasma here. So that will be the above relations, and also this internal carotid artery. Now only we have learnt this internal carotid artery in the floor. So when it runs in the floor, then it pierces this dural roof to enter the cerebrum. So this course of this artery within and above the sinus resembles a U-shaped loop that will be called as the carotid siphon. So this internal carotid artery is related in the floor and roof of cavernous sinus. So this carotid siphon helps to damp the arterial pulsations of the internal carotid artery before it reaches the cerebrum. So we have seen the relations of the cavernous sinus: medially and below, pituitary gland and sphenoidal ear sinus. Laterally is trigeminal ganglion. Above is optic chiasma and also the internal carotid artery. Now we will see the tributaries and communications. If this cavernous sinus is asked as essay, sometimes otherwise separately this tributaries and communications may be asked as short notes. Tributaries and communications. First we will see the tributaries. Tributaries from the orbit: superior ophthalmic vein, inferior ophthalmic vein, and central vein of retina. From the cerebrum, superficial middle cerebral vein and few inferior cerebral veins. Sphenoparietal sinus, which is here, will be related to the lesser wing of sphenoid, will also be the tributary of the cavernous sinus. Sphenoparietal sinus and sometimes anterior trunk of middle meningeal vein. So these are the tributaries of the cavernous sinus. Now the last is the communications and the applied anatomy. Communications, if you see, so this is the cavernous sinus. It is related to, it is communicating with the transverse sinus. So if here is the transverse sinus, so this will be the transverse sinus situation, situated in the transverse sulcus on both sides. So it will be communicating with this transverse sinus through the superficial petrosal sinus. So this is the situation of superficial petrosal sinus in relation to the petrous temporal bone. Then here will be the sigmoid sinus. It will be communicating with the cavernous sinus through the inferior petrosal sinus. So these two are the communications with the transverse sinus and the sigmoid sinus. With pterygoid venous plexus also it communicates through many emissary veins which pass through the foramen ovale, foramen spinosum and foramen lacerum. With facial vein by two roots, superior ophthalmic vein and angular vein, pterygoid venous plexus and deep facial vein. So these two are the, so superior ophthalmic vein, which is the tributary of cavernous sinus, connects this to the facial vein and also through pterygoid venous plexus. So if this dangerous area of the face is asked, these two communications should be written for the answer. How this dangerous area communicates with the cavernous sinus through the facial vein. One is the superior ophthalmic vein and two is pterygoid venous plexus. With opposite cavernous sinus, it communicates by anterior intercavernous sinus and posterior intercavernous sinus. and also with the superior sagittal sinus through the superficial middle cerebral vein and the superior anastomotic vein. So this next division is for how these factors regulating the blood flow in this cavernous sinus. So this cavernous sinus is situated in the cranial cavity. So how this blood is running in this cavernous sinus is adjacent artery, internal carotid artery pulsation helps, and by also by the gravity and by the change of position of the head. Last is the applied anatomy. So many tributaries and communications may cause the septic thrombosis by any spread of infection. So that will be manifested by severe pain in the eye. Because of this ophthalmic nerve involvement, there will be severe pain in the eye. That may be the one applied anatomy. Next is this. If the internal carotid artery is ruptured as a result of fracture of the base of the skull, an arteriovenous communication may be caused, resulting in the pulsating exophthalmos. Exophthalmos is the protrusion of the eyeball. Pulsating means with each pulse of the internal carotid artery, as if this eyeball appears pulsating protrusion. So that is the another applied aspect. So we have completed this cavernous venous sinus in very detail. Situation, extent, why named so, measurements, formation, structures passing through the cavernous sinus, lateral wall, structures in the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, relations, tributaries, communications, factors regulating the blood flow, and applied anatomy. And we have also covered the superior orbital fissure, which may be asked as separate question, or if this cranial nerves, three cranial nerves which are very important, oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve and abductor nerves may be asked as separate essay. If you know the superior orbital fissure, then this first the cavernous venous sinus, then the superior orbital fissure, and then the extraocular muscles, then you can write these three essays. That this they will represent the course of these three cranial nerves. So we have completed in detail the cavernous sinus. With the next class in the head and neck, we will see in the next class. Those who have not subscribed to the channel, subscribe now so that you will receive the everyday updates.